manufactured before the government of Guyana bought part of the land to build governmental institutions. Mainly Amerindians live in this area. Some of the tribes include Arawaks, Caribs and Warao. Mabaruma also has a large Afro-Guyanese population with small East Indian, Chinese and Portuguese communities. It replaced Morawana as a regional capital after the former was deemed at risk from flooding. Mabaruma became a town in 2016 with the surrounding villages of Hosororo and Kumaka joining. There is a government guest house in the town as well as the Mabaruma Post Office, Mabaruma Hospital and a police station where court cases are tried, but because of its size, only petty crimes are tried. Mabaruma contains the region's first secondary school, Northwest Secondary School, established in 1965. Most local people either do farming or fishing for a living. CNXM on Bet You Didn't Know, compliments of Sigismund Consultants, Inc.
This is News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. Drink Pepsi Black for max taste, no sugar. Pepsi Black time, 18 hours.
The news from Guyana, the region and the world. Compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom and powered by DemeraraWaves.com.
The news comes to you compliments of KFC. It's finger licking good. With the news, I am Ruth Wilson. Good evening. First, the highlights. The opposition accuses government of awarding contracts to blacklisted companies. Guyana's service commissions may be appointed by this month end when a new opposition leader is expected to be in place. And in the region, with Antigua, a policewoman has been caught shoplifting. Details of these and other stories and the international news from the BBC in a moment.
KFC will be holding an employment call Sunday 13 February 2022 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the parking lot at the Vlesingian Road branch. Get interviewed on the spot. You'll need a job application, a vaccination card that shows you're fully vaccinated, ID, TIN, police clearance, 2 references, passport size photograph and your birth certificate. KFC's employment call, Sunday, February 13th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the parking lot at KFC's Vlesingian Road branch.
And now for the news in detail. The opposition, a Partnership for National Unity Alliance for Change, APNU-AFC, says that billions of dollars worth of contracts are being awarded to blacklisted companies. APNU-AFC parliamentarian David Patterson says although the Public Procurement Commission had barred several companies, contracts had been awarded to a number of companies.
Sir, despite being banned by the Public Procurement Commission, two contracts were awarded by the Central Housing and Planning Authorities, one of $890 million, sir, and one, sir, from Region 9 of $30 million, sir, to Vidalib. They're a blacklisted company, Vidalib. Additionally, contracts were awarded. They just awarded a contract for Milo. A Milo falls to China Railway Forest Group. Blacklisted companies are blacklisted for fraudulent practices.
The APNU-AFC parliamentarian is also accusing the government of awarding contracts to close associates such as Queen's Atlantic. The Guyana government says it is conducting detailed studies of the Yellowtail well before approving a field development plan. This announcement was made by Natural Resources Minister Vikram Bharat during the ongoing budget debate.
We are in the process of reviewing the field development plan for the fourth development, the Yellowtail development, and I want to say that we are not taking things lightly. As a government, we have already engaged 2 different sets of international consultants to ensure that they review the field development plan for Yellowtail and to ensure that when a license, once approved, is granted, that it brings additional benefits to the people of Guyana. And there are safeguards in the license to ensure that our environment is protected and to ensure that people actually benefit from the oil and gas sector, Mr. Speaker.
Several environmental activists in Guyana have stated in court papers that an oil spill from Yellowtail will affect the chain of Caribbean islands. Vice President Bar Jagdeo says that once a new opposition leader is in place, the government will be ready to establish several constitutional commissions. With Mr. Joseph Harmon having resigned from the post of opposition leader, the People's National Congress Reform-led opposition coalition is continuing internal maneuvers for Mr. Aubrey Norton to become a parliamentarian and voted in as opposition leader.
Now we are in the process of electing a new leader of the opposition. So once that person is in place, we anticipate that by the end of February, we should have all of the commissions, the service commissions in place, right? So the president will consult with the leader of the opposition on the Judicial Service Commission and putting it back in place, the Public Service Commission, and the Teaching Service Commission.
He notes that already 4 names have been approved for the appointment of a police service commission, with the next step being a motion to go to the National Assembly for approval. Vice President Jagdeo also remarks that the current internal politics of the coalition proves that then opposition leader Joseph Harmon had no real power to make decisions.
You'd recall several times I said that engaging with Mr. Harmon might be an exercise in futility, given that he may not have had a mandate from his party. And we were proven correct, that he never had a mandate from his party, although they had a very disappointed show and Mr. Norton was elected.
Mr. Jagdeo restates that the PNCR's recent internal elections only saw a third of its delegates voting. Government says it wants a number of Guyana's election laws amended before local government elections are held. Vice President Bar Jagdeo says the response to the proposed amendments to the Representation of the People's Act. Already, People's National Congress Reform Aubrey Norton has insisted that Region 4 will not be split up in a revised Representation of the People Act. But Mr. Jagdeo maintains that Region 4 will not be broken up into separate electoral districts.
In the last election, so they had the different tallies being done by the East Coast. We had results with the East Coast, East Bank, South Georgetown and North Georgetown because of large numbers. So they were tallying and giving subtotals for each of these 4 areas. All we're saying in the new law, not splitting up Region 4, all we're saying is that you should put, instead of having one RO responsible for the whole region, given the large number of votes, which are like East Coast or South Georgetown has maybe 3-4 times more votes than another region, some smaller regions, then put in separate individuals to run all of these places. So you're not splitting Region 4 up.
He hopes that the amended law will be in place for local government elections.
They will be crucial, we believe, for holding local government elections as a test run, because many of the measures that we are putting in place in that bill could then be implemented in the local government reform, which is greater predictability surrounding selection of people, training, the manuals, publication of the manuals, counting of results, publication of results, all of that.
Government also plans to amend the National Registration Act. The chairman of the Guyana Gold Board, Dr. Gobin Ganga, says a system of accountability has been put in place to prevent declaration of Venezuelan gold in Guyana. There has long been speculation that cheaper Venezuelan gold is being smuggled across the border to Guyana, where it is purchased at a lower price and sold to local gold dealers and the Gold Board. But Dr. Ganga says the Gold Board and the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission are working closely to put systems in place so that miners will have to properly account for gold being declared. He says if there is any suspicion, the board will examine factors such as the possible gold output of concessions with actual sales and revenue. At that point, Dr. Ganga says questions will be asked and miners will be asked to prove the source of the gold they are selling. A man who has been charged with the possession of ammunition and firearm and robbery under arms escaped from the Luzignan prison today. Police say that 18-year-old Kavin Singh of School Street Grove, East Bank, Demerara, escaped from the Luzignan prison virtual court compound while attending court. Investigators say that about 9:30 hours today, prison officer Danraj uplifted 7 inmates, including Mr. Singh, to attend court at Luzignan prison. Singh and the other inmates were left in the custody of prison officer Raleigh Wayne Payne. Prison officer Payne told police that about 9:45, Singh, who was foot cuffed at the time, asked prison officer Payne to use the prisoner washroom, which is situated to the northwestern side of the court compound. Police say that permission was granted and Singh left and went to use the washroom. According to prison officer Payne, he left and went to the court office, leaving the prisoner in the washroom, and upon his return, he went to the washroom and discovered Singh missing, hence an alarm was raised. Checks were made in the court compound and it was observed that the eastern chain link fence of the court compound was detached from the post. You are still with us on News Talk Radio Guyana 103.1 FM. It is 18 hours 11. We now turn to news in the region. In Antigua, a female police officer who was accused of shoplifting after a supermarket surveillance video went viral on Monday has been asked to resign. Pointe Express reports that the video footage appeared to show the veteran officer concealing what insiders say was dental floss in her shopping bag. She was shown unpacking a number of other items from a small grocery basket just moments before the embarrassing incident. Pointe Express learned on Wednesday that after countless appeals to Commissioner of Police Atlee Rodney for leniency on behalf of the 56-year-old corporal, the decision was taken to allow her to resign instead of being fired. Dismissal would mean the 31-year veteran of the police force would lose her pension and any other benefits she had accrued over the years. The issue has reportedly caused a friction within the force, as some officers have taken the position that she ought not to have been given the opportunity to resign. We now move over to news in the British Virgin Islands. 3rd District Representative Julian Fraser is predicting that Premier Andrew Fahie will call an election before it is constitutionally due. The next general election is due early next year, but the veteran legislator said Fahie's actions indicate that voters will not have to wait that long. BVI News reports that Mr. Fraser says that based on the things that Premier Fahie is doing, he will call a snap election before August. Mr. Fraser says that the last election was February 25, 2019. He argued that political parties were going to start campaigning before the 4-year anniversary of that date. Commenting on the matter, 2nd District Representative and fellow opposition legislator Melvin Turnbull said that opposition members are committed to working together in the best interest of the people of the Virgin Islands, regardless of what this might mean after an election is called. And officials at the Dodds prison in Barbados have confirmed a COVID-19 outbreak with more than 50 inmates and staffers so far testing positive for the virus. But Minister of Home Affairs and Information Wilfred Abrahams said operations at the penal institution have not been significantly affected. Abrahams said that the testing of prison officers who reported for duty earlier in the day resulted in the discovery of 5 cases that do not seem connected to the previous cluster of cases. He said a staff member who works in the prison's kitchen had tested positive for COVID-19, which resulted in the testing of all the associated inmates and staff between January 29 and 31. From that number, 18 male inmates tested positive on their first test, and a further 26 received positive results Wednesday from their second tests on Tuesday. The Barbadian Home Affairs Minister says that all of the COVID-positive inmates are stable and are isolated in the prison. He says all those who have been in contact with them have been quarantined. Abrahams said a decision was made to rapid test Wednesday's incoming shift of prison officers, and 5 positive results have been reported. At 18 hours of 14, we now turn to international news from the BBC.
Hello, I'm Moira Alderson with the BBC News. The White House says the United States has acquired intelligence about a Russian plot to fabricate a pretext for an invasion of Ukraine. The plan involves producing a fake video that would show an attack by the Ukrainian military, either on Russian territory or against Russian-speaking people in Ukraine. The US says Moscow would then accuse Ukraine of genocide. Ned Price is the spokesman for the State Department in Washington.
We don't know if Russia will necessarily use this or another option in the coming days. We are publicizing it now, however, in order to lay bare the extent of Russia's destabilizing actions towards Ukraine and to dissuade Russia from continuing this dangerous campaign and ultimately launching a military attack.
Russia denies that it's planning to invade. More details have been emerging of how US Special Forces killed the Islamic State leader Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi in northwest Syria. President Biden said American troops carried out a raid rather than an airstrike because al-Qurayshi had always surrounded himself with civilians. The militant blew up an entire floor of the building where he was hiding, killing himself and members of his own family. Here's Anna Foster.
The Syrian White Helmets, who do humanitarian work in the area, told us that they had recovered 13 bodies, including 6 children and 4 women. And then a few hours later, it was confirmed by the US President Joe Biden that they had killed the leader of the Islamic State group, Abu Ibrahim al-Qurayshi. He's been in charge of the group since 2019, since the previous leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, was killed in an almost identical raid to this one by coalition forces in Syria.
4 senior figures at Downing Street have resigned within hours of each other as Britain's Prime Minister Boris Johnson fights for his political life. Dan Rosenfield quit as Chief of Staff, Martin Reynolds as Principal Private Secretary, Jack Doyle as Head of Communications and Munira Mirza as Head of Policy. Rob Watson has more details.
Lots of people inside and outside the governing Conservative Party are going to say, my goodness, is this the wheels finally coming off of the Boris Johnson machine? The really damaging one is Munira Mirza, and that is because she resigned on a matter of principle. I mean, she accused the Prime Minister of inappropriate partisan behaviour. I mean, really, really cutting stuff. But not from some sort of junior member of staff who joined him recently, but someone who'd been with him on his whole journey as a politician from Mayor of London. So I think I'd make that one rather separate to the other 3.
The European Union says it's only willing to resume military training in the Central African Republic if soldiers there stop working with the Russian private security firm Wagner. Several hundred Russian paramilitaries have led a counter-offensive against rebels for more than a year. They've been accused by the UN of human rights violations. BBC News. The President of Ghana has warned that West Africa is in great danger as a result of recent coups. At a key meeting of the Economic Community of West African States, Nana Akufo-Addo described last year's military takeover in Mali as contagious. The army in Burkina Faso also seized power last month. The regional body ECOWAS has imposed sanctions against Mali. The organisation's president, Jean-Claude Cassibrou, said those measures would only be eased once Mali's generals set out a timetable for elections.
The head of state decided to request the current military authorities to very rapidly propose a timetable for the restoration of constitutional order.
Peru's new Prime Minister, Hector Valer, has rejected allegations of domestic violence following calls for his resignation. Peruvian media have published details of a police investigation against Mr. Valer 5 years ago, which includes accusations that he kicked and punched his daughter and his late wife. The Prime Minister strenuously denied the accusations and said he wasn't an abuser. President Pedro Castillo has now had 3 prime ministers since he came into power in July. Emergency workers in Morocco are in a race against time to rescue a 5-year-old boy trapped for 3 days in a deep well. Rayan fell more than 30 metres down the well's narrow opening near the northern city of Chefchaouen. A camera lowered into the hole, which measures just 25 centimetres across, has shown he's still alive and conscious. Food, water and an oxygen mask have also been lowered to him. The second semi-final of football's Africa Cup of Nations is heading for extra time, where Egypt are facing the host country, Cameroon. At the end of 90 minutes, the game was goalless. The winners will face Senegal on Sunday. That's the latest. BBC News.
And that's the news to the moment.
KFC will be holding an employment call Sunday 13 February 2022 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the parking lot at the Vlesingian Road branch. Get interviewed on the spot. You'll need a job application, a vaccination card that shows you're fully vaccinated, ID, TIN, police clearance, 2 references, passport-size photograph and your birth certificate. KFC's employment call, Sunday, February 13th, 2022, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the parking lot at KFC's Vlesingian Road branch.
To end the news, here's a recap of the highlights. The opposition accuses government of awarding contracts to blacklisted companies. Guyana's service commissions may be appointed by this month end when a new opposition leader is expected to be in place. And in the region, in Antigua specifically, a policewoman has been caught shoplifting. The news came to you compliments of KFC. It's finger licking good.
This has been the news, compiled in the News Talk Radio newsroom. For ongoing updates, visit demerarawaves.com, and you can check facebook.com/demwaves and twitter.com/demwaves.